Hello guys and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to take a look at the Razors, but in particular the Razor EX. Now as you can see here, there are three variants to this ship. We have the one in blue, which is the standard Razor. We have the LX denoted in the white paint scheme, that is the racing variant. And then of course we have the EX, which is the stealth variant of Razor from Mirai. Mirai being their new performance wing of MISC, so these ships got moved into that category recently. And you can see why. They are high performance spacecraft. The EX is the stealth variant, as I've said, and its components are predominantly all stealth, so that is where it's getting its stealth label from. What's interesting about this ship is the Advocacy from the UEE were using these for their agents to slip in undetected into areas and do secret agent space stuff, which sounds awesome. Now the EX in particular, I absolutely love the way this thing looks. It looks like a Formula 1 car to some extent. It has spoilers and winglets and it looks incredible, especially with the carbon fibre. I think the carbon fibre, if that is in fact carbon fibre, really sets this ship aside for its looks. Of course that's subjective. For me, I think it looks absolutely incredible. It does incorporate some Xi'an tech, which makes this ship incredibly quick. Very quick. In fact, break your neck quick. And this isn't even the racing variant. The racing variant is, I think, top speed of 1,400. This does around 1,345 meters per second. So it is no slouch. Again, fitting that role of slipping into maybe unknown territory or an enemy sector. Getting in and getting out is very important, and with this ship's speed, that really isn't too much of a problem. It's just a very appealing ship to look at. Not to mention the Razors do come with a very interesting fuel tank. They have a Proteus fuel tank, which is designed to make up for the small hydrogen fuel tanks. And essentially what that does, this Proteus fuel tank with the two intakes allows you to recharge and deploy your afterburner booster much faster due to its small hydrogen fuel tanks. So that's a very interesting and probably very useful asset to have on a ship that does light espionage work. I found that quite interesting. Now you can buy and rent all of the Razors in game. I believe they're about 1.8 million roughly to purchase in game. Quite expensive for a ship of this size, and you can rent them for around 52 to 55,000 for a day. Quite expensive, but then they are supposed to be quite rare within the verse according to the lore, so that kind of makes sense in that regard. So let's talk about what scenario we could use an EX. Now I'm kind of thinking on the lines of light hit and run tactics, reconnaissance, surveillance, all of those kind of espionage sneaking around. I think the EX does have a shot at completing some of those missions. I also like the fact that it's incredibly quick in space and in atmosphere. This thing does not hang around. It's a very good attribute to have. I kind of like the idea of doing reconnaissance with this, a little bit of surveillance. It doesn't have the range with some of the other ships. I don't have a stump fighter in my fleet, and I'm not really a fan of the Furies. They just don't look as sleek as the Razors in my opinion, but of course that is subjective. So in the future, if a situation dictates that I need to sneak around somewhere and I don't need to carry any cargo and I'm going in to infiltrate somewhere, then the EX becomes a very valid option. Now, I'm not sure how much the stealth components will affect its radar cross-section, but being small and having all stealth components I think will almost certainly help. Obviously, stealth needs to be worked on to a point where it's not game breaking where you can never get detected, but it should allow you to get close enough to a target or to achieve the mission you're trying to run without immediately being detected. So there is some fine lines to walk as regarding stealth in the game, and over time I expect to see a lot of balance tweaks to stealth gameplay and stealth ships in general. I think they're going to have a hard time trying to balance it where it's not too OP but just enough that it's not terrible. It's going to be interesting to see how these stealth variants of all the ships in the verse come to fruition. So The Razor EX, although it's small and doesn't pack a devastating amount of firepower, I do think there is a market for it. It does have an interesting history, and it does incorporate some Xi'an tech, as you'd expect from being MISC and Mirai, the new performance division. You could expect those common traits to be shared throughout the Razors. So why would you pick one of these over a Fury, for example? Well, we know that the Furies have a racing variant now, and they pack a ridiculous amount of firepower, but they don't have access to a quantum drive, and that was a deal breaker for me. And really, I wouldn't be using a Razor of any kind to do a lot of combat. You know, it's not designed for that. I like the sort of sly sneakiness that is implied, and it looks the part, right? The engines look incredible. The lighting on the back, there's that RGB strip, if it is RGB, next to these engines that also look just as incredible. The detailing in the engines is fantastic. Nice blue flame, incredible looking ship, and there's carbon fiber everywhere. You know, it really gives you a sense that this thing is actually built for speed. The way the cockpit is shaped, very cramped, but as a racing ship, forward stroke stealth ship, it's designed to hug the pilot nice and tight, because this ship's speed will quite easily snap your neck. It's ridiculous, but it's just so sleek looking. The Furies don't hold a candle to the Razors, in my opinion, despite the lack of firepower. I'll intend to use this as a daily driver for bunker missions, for example, using that speed in atmosphere, getting from bunker to bunker. This will be very useful. Until we get more missions and a bigger verse to explore in, then we will see the true potential of stealth ships in general, but in particular the EX will become more viable, I think, because it's not much bigger than the Furies, but can just about fit in some of the larger ships. You can kind of get it in a Caterpillar, but I wouldn't recommend it. It's small, it's narrow, 11 meters in length and 9 meters wide, and I think mostly that's due to that rear wing, which makes it 9 meters wide. Now, I don't know why, but when I was filming these shots in and around Lorville, I couldn't help but feel that if we ever get detective missions, which I feel like CIG have mentioned, but I couldn't find the source to clarify that. So if you know, please let me know. I kind of feel like if we ever get a detective mission where you could get a license for being a detective and solving crime, I feel like the Razor EX would be a perfect detective's car. I don't know why, it has that sort of film noir feel to it, which I would love to see. So as you can see, that was just a random thought I had, sorry for that. As you can see here, we have the two weapon systems located on the belly. Each these are ballistic scatter guns, which I'm not fond of. They will be replaced at some point, but we do have two size 1 missiles again hanging off the belly of the ship, so not really a formidable firepower attribute that this ship carries, but it's enough to sort of ward off any would-be attackers and get the hell out of town if you need to. So what we need to do now is actually take a look at the speed of this ship, bearing in mind that this is not the racing variant, this is not the LX. So here we go in the cockpit. As you can see, got cruise control on. This is without afterburner, and it quickly gets to top speed, which is 1,344 meters per second, and it did not take us long to get there, and that was without the boost. So we'll put the boost on, bring this ship to a stop, and as you can see, our pilot is already beginning to have all the blood pool in his legs, and we've taken a little nap. To be expected. This thing is so ridiculously quick. It reminds me of the Xi'an Scout, the L-Car2. Oh, it took me a while to think of that. Okay, so now we're back at a stationary point, and this time we'll wait for the boost to recharge. In the meantime, you can see the roll rate is absolutely superb. No issues whatsoever with the roll rate. And then we will do it with the boost. And as you can see, our pilot immediately blacks out, and when we come to, if we come to, we're at top speed already. So yeah, This thing is an animal when it comes to speed, and it's not even the racing variant. When I get the chance to get into the LX, I most certainly will, just to see how quickly this thing can break my head. So unless you're actually being chased by another ship that has racing potential and or weapons, it's going to be extremely difficult to catch a Razor, I think, in a particularly hairy environment. Master modes might have some implication on that. I have tried master modes, I actually like it, I think it's a very clever solution. We'll see how the transition from SCM combat mode to running away bravely is implemented in the Razor EX, but the handling is very responsive in space. It does get a little bit nose heavy in atmosphere, especially if you're above that SCM speed. It can be quite tricky to pull maneuvers, but as you can see in space, it is extremely responsive. In fact, so responsive your pilot doesn't like it and likes to pass out all the time. As you can see, the cockpit itself then, we only have the 3 MFDs, and it's not particularly a complicated cockpit, nor should it be for what it is. It's a very tight fit, very much like a monocoque design from a Formula 1 car. It hugs the pilot tight, and by doing that, it gives you a sense of immersion, and it's going to keep the blood in your head as opposed to your legs to some extent. I wonder if CIG will actually implement some sort of flight fully G-suit, you know, like you see with modern fighters today. I know we have undersuits, but I would like a new design for like a racing suit. I think that's something they could do. A racing G-suit, I think, would be perfect for these types of ships. Right, let's now take a look at the weapons and components. Okay, let's take a look at the stock components you will find on your brand new Razor EX if you've just dropped 1.8 million on one. So we have 2 coolers, which are the heat safe, and these are stealth, obviously. Stealth components, size 1, grade 3. Then we have the power plant, which is a Sonic Light, size 1, stealth class drive, power plant, sorry. I would swap this for something more powerful because there's been odd moments where the ship struggles with its power, so I would recommend changing that to a higher powered stealth power plant if you can. Then we have the quantum drive, which is a drift. This again, size 1, class, stealth. All stealth, as you would expect. Range will get you from, let's say, Arccourt to Hurston with some overhead, so around 30 million kilometers, I believe, off the top of my head. And then we have the Shimmer shield generator, which is a size 1, stealth shield. Not the most protective for your ship. You really will need to rely on your speed and maneuverability to get out of a sticky situation. You could upgrade that. That would be down to your personal preference. Weapons, we have the missile rack with the 2 size 1s, as we saw earlier, located on the belly. Again, not an inordinate amount of firepower, and maybe enough to get out of a problem. And then we have the Helion scatterguns, which are ballistic. These are size 2, grade 1s. I will be swapping these out at some point. I don't like the scatterguns or where they are at the moment. I think some laser repeaters would be more than enough, providing you upgrade your power plant. You shouldn't have any issues. So those are the basic stock components that you will find on the EX. And what we'll do now then, guys, is move on to our walk around. I like to do these. 1, it gives you a sense of scale, and 2, we get a little bit of a closer look while the camera's moving, which is always nice. So as you can see, we have the tricycle landing gear, we have the big rear wing with prominent lights, we have the 2 engines at the back. It just looks so sleek. It's awesome. It's an awesome looking ship. I love the reverse thrusters at the front. Again, they have their own sort of like dedicated winglets there. It just looks really, really cool. Ironically, this ship got rejected by the UEE in the end, which is why we have this civilian variant. So they weren't happy with some of the performance testing that they had done with this ship. I don't know why. I think it's great. Yeah, very cool looking ship. I think the only thing I don't like is that front landing gear just looks weird. It just doesn't quite suit the aesthetic of the ship. That's my only real complaint. Everywhere else is really smoothed off. So you have smooth curves that meet hard lines, and then most of these hard lines are quickly wrapped in carbon fibre. If it is carbon fibre, I'm not even sure it is, but it certainly looks like it. Then of course we move around to the rear. We have these two engines with the excellent blue flames. Just really excellent looking ship. There's not really any complaints I have. Of course, looks are all subjective. You might prefer other ships. That's absolutely fine. For me, I think it's just because I'm a Formula 1 fan, and yeah, this is the closest we'll get at the moment to a Formula 1 car in space. That's the only way I could describe this ship. If someone said, "Oh right, what does that ship look like?" I would say, "Have you seen Formula 1 before?" They go, "Yes." I go, "Okay, it's that." You know, that's the only way to describe this thing. But it does look incredible. Absolutely incredible. I'm infatuated with this ship for good reason. I just hope I get multiple uses out of it. Like I said, I've been using it for my daily driver from bunker to bunker and those sorts of things. We have limited range with the QT drive, but this is all stuff that can be overcome. It could be easily transported. It's not massive. Don't know what happened to the camera there. Right, we'll jump in the cockpit. As we hop in, everything's good to go. We're in Art Court, as you can see. Canopy folds over, if it is a canopy. And then we have the 3 MFDs. So we have a big prominent one in the center here with its own buttons. Then we have the 2 digital displays. And it is a HOTAS system, very snug fit in this ship. Very snug. And that does help with the immersion that you're in a fast, nimble spaceship. And as you can see, the buttons all function, most of them. There's 2 on the outer don't. I kind of can't help but feel though, those 2 digital MFDs, is a small complaint really, should be mounted on those plastics next to the main one. The visibility itself, you do have some struts running through the ship. It's not going to affect you in any way. You hardly notice them. In fact, I kind of like them because again, it gives you a sense that you're really strapped into this ship and about to go at a rapid rate of space knots. But my complaint, as I was saying, I think these black panels here, I would like to have physical MFDs there as opposed to these digital ones. They're a bit bright, they're too small, they're actually quite hard to read, especially at this sort of standard position. A small complaint nonetheless. But there we go guys, that was my video on the Razor EX. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, you know what buttons to press, and I of course will have more Star Citizen content en route to your location soon. Thanks for watching guys, take care, cheers.